3 a.m. You open your eyes in the dark. You don't know why you've woken up. There was no noise, no nightmare you can recall. But something has pulled you from sleep. It happens again and again, night after night, always at that same ungodly hour. 3 a.m., as if something is calling you. Most people just brush it off. They think it's insomnia, a health issue, work stress. But what I'm about to reveal to you today will completely change how you see these nocturnal awakenings, because Jung discovered something about 3 a.m. that modern psychology has tried to bury for decades. And Huberman, in his studies on circadian rhythm and cortisol, has inadvertently proven exactly what Jung intuited over a century ago. This isn't random. Your body isn't malfunctioning. Your mind isn't just stressed. Something much deeper is going on. And if you understand what it is, you can transform these awakenings from a curse into one of the most powerful tools for self-knowledge that exists. Let's start with what Huberman discovered. At Huberman Lab, he explains that cortisol, the hormone that wakes you up, follows a predictable pattern. It starts to rise silently around 2 or 3 a.m., increasing gradually until it peaks about 30 to 45 minutes after you wake up in the morning, and then it declines consistently as night approaches. Under normal conditions, this rise is smooth, gentle. You barely even notice it. It prepares you to wake up at the right time. But here's the catch. In people who are experiencing stress, anxiety, or carrying unprocessed traumas, cortisol levels are already elevated, and when that natural moment of increase arrives at 3 a.m., instead of a gentle nudge, there's a spike, the HPA axis, which is the system that regulates cortisol in your body, becomes dysregulated. It fires at inappropriate times, and at 3 a.m., when your brain should be in deep sleep, you jolt awake, not because of a noise, not because of a bad dream, because of a chemical storm inside you that your body can no longer contain. But wait, that's just the biological layer, and this is where most doctors stop. They tell you to reduce stress, drink some tea, maybe take some medication. But Jung saw something much deeper in this phenomenon, and what he discovered could change your life. Jung called 3 a.m. a special hour, not by accident. He observed that during this period, the unconscious speaks the loudest. The ego, which during the day controls your thoughts, your defenses, your masks, finally rests. And when the ego sleeps, the unconscious finds a loophole to emerge. After analyzing over 80,000 dreams throughout his career, Jung said something that became famous. Dreams are like little hidden doors. In the deepest and most intimate recesses of the soul, he recognized that dreams are powerful portals to the unconscious and offer unparalleled insights into who we really are. And here's the connection that almost nobody makes. When you wake up at 3 a.m., you're being yanked exactly from the moment when the unconscious is most active. REM sleep, which is when we dream most intensely, peaks during this window. Your heart rate is at its slowest. Your body temperature is reduced. Your breathing pattern and blood pressure are irregular. And your brain is immersed in processing information that your conscious mind can't access during the day. Suddenly waking up from REM sleep causes agitation, fear, and disorientation. And that's why many people report strange sensations when they wake up at 3 a.m. It's not paranoia, it's neurobiology. You're being torn from a profoundly altered state of consciousness. But Jung went even further. He said that the unconscious is the unknown at any given moment. So it is not surprising that dreams should add to the momentary conscious psychological situation all those aspects which are essential for a totally different point of view. This function of dreams amounts to a psychological adjustment, a compensation absolutely necessary for properly balanced action. In other words, when you wake up at 3 a.m., your unconscious may be trying to compensate you. To show you something you're ignoring, reveal a truth you don't want to see, correct an imbalance in your psyche that your conscious mind is avoiding. Now hold that thought, because I'm going to come back to this point soon. First, I need to tell you about something that connects all of this, in a way that will surprise you. Otto Lowy was a scientist who made one of the most important discoveries in neuroscience. He discovered acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter fundamental to brain function. But the way he made this discovery is extraordinary. One night, Lowy had a dream. In the dream, he saw a crucial experiment that could prove his theory. He woke up, jotted down some things, and went back to sleep. In the morning, he couldn't understand his own notes. The next night, he had the dream again. This time, at 3 a.m., he got up, went straight to his lab, and performed the experiment. It worked. And for this work, he won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1936. Think about that. One of science's most prestigious awards was earned because a man woke up at 3 a.m. with a message from the unconscious. Jung would say that this wasn't coincidence. It was synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence that can't be explained by cause and effect. A message from the universe, or from the psyche, or from something larger than ourselves. And here's what you need to understand. If you're waking up at 3 a.m. repeatedly, it may be that your unconscious is trying to deliver something to you, a solution, an insight, a truth that you need to confront. The question is, are you listening or just complaining about insomnia? Now, let's go to an even deeper layer. In various traditions, 3 a.m. is known as the witching hour, or the devil's hour. Wikipedia records that in folklore. The witching hour is a period of the night associated with supernatural events. Witches, demons, and ghosts supposedly appear, and are at their maximum power. Some definitions place it in the hour immediately after midnight, others between 3 and 4 a.m. There's a religious origin to this. Christians believe that Jesus died at 3 in the afternoon. And because the devil supposedly works in inversions, the witching hour, the moment when we are most distant from sacred power, would be 3 a.m. But before you dismiss this as superstition, pay attention to what science has discovered. There is psychological literature suggesting that experiences of apparitions and felt presences are more common between 2 and 4 a.m. That corresponds to a peak in melatonin in the body. At 3 a.m., melatonin is the sleep hormone, but at elevated levels, it can also cause altered states of consciousness, visions, sensations of presence, experiences that seem supernatural but have a neurobiological basis. At 3 a.m., your brain is chemically primed for experiences that transcend normal perception. Carl Jung never dismissed the supernatural, but he also never separated it from the psyche. For him, mystical experiences, visions, synchronicities, all of this was a manifestation of the collective unconscious, deep layers of the psyche that we share with all of humanity. And at 3 a.m., when the veil between the conscious and the unconscious is at its thinnest, these experiences become more accessible. Going back to the point I asked you to keep in mind, remember I talked about compensation? Carl Jung believed that the unconscious constantly works to balance the psyche. If you're ignoring something during the day, repressing an emotion, avoiding a truth, the unconscious will find a way to bring it to the surface. And often, that way is by waking you up at 3 a.m. But there's more. Traditional Chinese medicine has something fascinating to say about this. According to this tradition, each organ in the body is associated with a 2-hour period during the day, and the period between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. is considered the hour of the liver. The liver in Chinese medicine is responsible for the smooth movement of qi, the vital energy. But it's also associated with emotions like anger, frustration, and resentment. Waking up during the hour of the liver may indicate that toxic emotions or blocked energy are emerging. And here's what's fascinating. Andrew Huberman and modern neuroscience have discovered that the liver plays a crucial role in the circadian rhythm. Cortisol directly synchronizes the peripheral clocks in the liver, muscle, and adipose tissue. When we sleep, we are in a fasted state. During this time, our body releases glucose from the liver's reserves to maintain blood sugar levels. If this regulation is unbalanced, it can cause sleep disruptions in the middle of the night, so we have 3 different systems pointing to the same thing. Andrew Huberman's neuroscience shows that the liver and cortisol rhythms are closely linked to nocturnal awakenings. Chinese medicine associates this time with the liver and unprocessed emotions. And Carl Jung talks about the unconscious using sleep to bring to the surface repressed content. 3 different languages. 1. Same truth. Waking up at 3 a.m. isn't random, it's a message. But hold on, because there's something even deeper that I need to show you before we go to the practical part. Carl Jung identified a phenomenon that he called great dreams. These are dreams that don't just come from the personal unconscious, but from the collective unconscious. They carry a different weight, a quality that's almost sacred. They're memorable and transformative. They can alter a person's worldview. Marie-Louise von Franz, one of Carl Jung's leading disciples, described these dreams as almost otherworldly, like a manifestation of a realm beyond our conscious understanding. In ancient cultures, and in some traditions to this day, these dreams are seen as messages from gods or ancestors. And here's what few people realize. Great dreams frequently happen during that 3 a.m. window, when the veil is thinnest, when the ego is most dormant, when access to the collective unconscious is most open. If you've ever woken up at 3 a.m. with a dream that's particularly vivid, particularly significant, particularly memorable, pay attention. It may not just be normal mental processing, it could be a great dream, a message from the deepest layers of the psyche, something that transcends your individual experience and touches on universal truths. Carl Jung said that humans have a thirst for wholeness. We want all parts of ourselves to be integrated. Individuation is the name Carl Jung gave to the process of achieving that wholeness. A process involving an individual self emerging from the integration of the collective and personal unconscious. He described it as the process by which a person becomes a psychological individual, that is, a separate and indivisible unity, a whole. And this process has a spiritual dimension. The 3 a.m. awakenings can be milestones in this process. Moments when the unconscious is actively working on your individuation, bringing to the surface material that needs to be integrated, forcing confrontations with parts of yourself that you've been avoiding, preparing you for the next step in your journey to becoming who you really are. Andrew Huberman talks about neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reshape itself based on experience, and research shows that during REM sleep, especially during those periods of intense processing at 3 a.m., the brain is actively consolidating memories, processing emotions, and creating new neural connections. In other words, your brain is literally reshaping itself while you sleep. And at 3 a.m., when you wake up, you may be interrupting a crucial moment in that process, or you may be being called to participate consciously in it. There is a liminal quality to these awakenings, Liminal means being on the threshold, between two states, neither completely awake nor completely asleep, neither completely conscious nor completely unconscious. And it's in this liminal space that extraordinary experiences can happen. Spiritual traditions around the world recognize the power of these liminal moments. Dawn and dusk are considered powerful hours in many cultures, and 3 a.m. represents another type of threshold, the deepest point of the night, the moment before the brain begins to prepare for the day. Some spiritual practitioners intentionally wake up at 3 a.m. to meditate or pray. They have found that the mind is more receptive at this time, more open, less dominated by the ego and its habitual defenses. Carl Jung would have agreed. He spent years exploring altered states of consciousness, and he understood that certain moments of the day are more conducive to accessing the unconscious. The question then isn't just why you wake up at 3 a.m. It's also what you do with that awakening. Do you treat it as an inconvenience or as an opportunity? Now let me explain what to do with this information. Because knowing this is one thing, using this knowledge to transform your life is something completely different. First, stop fighting the awakenings. When you wake up at 3 a.m. and get frustrated, desperately trying to go back to sleep, you're ignoring the message. And more than that, you're activating the stress system even more. Your cortisol rises, your anxiety rises, and falling back asleep becomes even harder. Instead, accept the awakening. Lie there in silence. Don't grab your phone. Don't turn on bright lights. Just be present. Observe what you're feeling in your body. What thoughts are surfacing? What emotions are present? You might be receiving valuable information from your unconscious. Secondly, keep a notebook by your bed. Otto Lowy nearly lost the discovery that earned him the Nobel Prize because he couldn't decipher his notes the next morning. Don't make that mistake. If you wake up with a dream, an idea, a sensation, write it down immediately. Even if it seems meaningless, even if you're sleepy, write it down. Carl Jung practiced this religiously. He called it dream journaling, and he believed that over time, patterns emerge, symbols repeat, and the unconscious begins to reveal its own language. Third, ask yourself what you're avoiding. Carl Jung said that the unconscious works to compensate. If you're waking up at 3 a.m. repeatedly, it might be that there's something your conscious mind doesn't want to see, a conversation you need to have, a decision you're putting off, an emotion you're repressing, a truth about yourself you don't want to confront. Fourth, take care of your liver. This might seem strange in a video about psychology and neuroscience, but remember that Andrew Huberman showed that the liver synchronizes circadian rhythms. Traditional Chinese medicine associates this time with the liver. If you're waking up at 3 a.m., it might be worth looking at your metabolic health. Reduce alcohol intake. Improve your diet. Take care of your body as a way to take care of your mind. Fifth, regulate your cortisol during the day. Andrew Huberman teaches that elevated cortisol in the morning is healthy, but it needs to decline throughout the day. If you're constantly stressed, your cortisol doesn't follow this natural pattern. It stays chronically elevated, and that causes those nighttime spikes that wake you up. Exposure to sunlight in the morning helps regulate cortisol. Exercise at the right time helps. Avoiding caffeine too late helps. Breathing techniques, like the physiological sigh that Andrew Huberman teaches, 2 quick inhales followed by a long exhale, activate the parasympathetic system and help reduce cortisol. Sixth, consider that it might be a spiritual calling. I know that might sound strange to some people, but Carl Jung never separated psychology from spirituality. To him, the journey of individuation, of becoming who you really are, had a spiritual dimension. And in some traditions, waking up repeatedly at 3 a.m. is seen as a sign of spiritual awakening, a calling to a higher purpose. I'm not saying you need to believe in something specific. I'm saying to stay open. If your unconscious is waking you up repeatedly, there might be a bigger reason than just brain chemistry. Seventh, observe the patterns. Do you wake up at 3 a.m. every night, or just on certain nights? Is there any correlation with events from the previous day? With what you ate? With emotions you felt? With thoughts you had before going to sleep? Carl Jung was a scientist of the psyche. He observed patterns. He wrote them down. He analyzed them. You can do the same with your own awakenings. Eighth, consider shadow work. Carl Jung called the shadow all the parts of ourselves that we repress, deny, or hide. The anger we don't express, the desires we deem unacceptable, the fears we pretend not to have. The shadow doesn't disappear just because we ignore it. It manifests, and one of the ways it manifests is through sleep disturbances. If you're waking up at 3 a.m., it might be that your shadow is asking for attention, asking to be seen, recognized, integrated. Andrew Huberman would say that unprocessed traumas dysregulate the HPA axis. Carl Jung would say that repressed contents emerge when the ego sleeps. Different words for the same truth. Ninth, create a ritual. When you wake up at 3 a.m., instead of lying frustrated in the dark, have a ritual. It can be simply breathing deeply. It can be asking a silent question to your unconscious. It can be repeating an affirmation. The ritual transforms the awakening from an interruption into an encounter, from a problem into an opportunity. 10th, be patient. Carl Jung said that individuation is a process that takes a lifetime. Andrew Huberman shows that changes in circadian rhythms take weeks to establish. You're not going to solve your nighttime awakenings in one night, but each awakening is an opportunity to learn more about yourself, to listen to what your unconscious is trying to say, to become more whole. Let me tell you one more thing before we wrap up, something that connects all of this in a powerful way. Andrew Huberman explained that your body's minimum temperature typically happens 2 hours before your normal wake-up time. If you usually wake up at 7 a.m., your minimum temperature is around 5 a.m. But at 3 a.m., you're in that in-between zone where your body temperature is still very low. Your metabolism is slowing down, and your brain is at the peak of REM activity. And it's exactly in this state that the ego's defense mechanisms are most relaxed. Carl Jung described the ego as the center of consciousness, the part of us that organizes thoughts, maintains social masks, filters what we allow into consciousness. During the day, the ego is strong. It controls, it defends, it represses. But at 3 a.m., when the temperature is low, when cortisol hasn't started to rise aggressively, when REM sleep is intense, the ego is at its most vulnerable. And it's in this vulnerability that the unconscious finds its chance to speak. Think about it. Your body and your mind work together in a precise way. Biology creates the conditions. The psyche seizes the opportunity. It's no coincidence that so many cultures around the world have identified 3 a.m. as a special hour. They were perceiving, through millennia of human observation, something that neuroscience is only now managing to measure and explain. There's also the question of regularity. Andrew Huberman emphasizes that consistency is fundamental for healthy sleep. Going to bed and waking up at the same time every day anchors the circadian rhythm. But what happens when that rhythm is interrupted? Night shift work and jet lag disrupt the circadian rhythm that normally regulates cortisol release. When sleep-wake cycles become misaligned, cortisol spikes can occur at inappropriate times during the night. And that's why people with irregular schedules frequently report nighttime awakenings. But there's another type of dysregulation, one that comes from within. Carl Jung would describe it as psychic conflict, when parts of ourselves are at war. 3 a.m. The conscious mind is battling the unconscious desires. The persona we show the world clashes with who we truly are. This internal conflict breeds stress. Chronic stress throws the HPA axis into disarray. And a dysregulated HPA axis triggers those 3 a.m. cortisol spikes that jolt you awake. So it's not just chemistry. It's the psyche manifesting in the body, the unconscious using biology to grab your attention. Some individuals report that after periods of intense therapeutic work, confronting profound issues, making significant life changes, those 3 a.m. awakenings lessen or vanish entirely. It's as if the unconscious stops shouting because it's finally being heard. Others experience the opposite. When embarking on a journey of self-discovery, through therapy, through inner exploration, the awakenings temporarily intensify. This makes perfect sense too. When you start stirring up repressed material, it doesn't simply emerge neatly. It surfaces, disrupts, demands attention. Carl Jung would term this an individuation crisis, a necessary period of chaos before a new order emerges. Andrew Huberman might describe the brain reorganizing itself, forming new neural connections, processing emotional material that was previously blocked, different languages for the same process, the pain of growth, the discomfort of transformation. So, if you're waking at 3 a.m. and it's coinciding with a period of change in your life, pay attention. It could be your unconscious actively working on your transformation, your brain reorganizing. The individuation process in action. You've made it this far. You now grasp something most people never will, that 3 a.m. isn't merely a number on a clock. It's a door, an opening between worlds, between the conscious and unconscious, between the ego and the self, between who you think you are and who you truly are. Carl Jung dedicated decades to studying the unconscious. He plumbed depths that would have shattered less resilient minds. And he discovered that the unconscious isn't our enemy. It's our ally, constantly striving to make us more whole, more authentic, more ourselves. Andrew Huberman spent decades in Stanford labs, measuring cortisol, temperature, brain waves. He mapped the biological rhythms governing our sleep and wakefulness. And his findings validate what Jung intuited. The body and mind are intricately linked. What happens in the chemistry affects the psyche. What happens in the psyche affects the chemistry. At 3 a.m., these two worlds converge, biology and psychology, science and spirit, Andrew Huberman and Carl Jung, and you are there, awake, receiving a message. The question is simple. Will you continue to ignore it? Continue complaining about insomnia? Continue medicating the symptom without understanding the root cause? Or will you start listening? Acknowledge that your unconscious has something to say? Use these awakenings as the transformative tool they truly are. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." At 3 a.m., you have a choice. Look outward, complain about the time, try to fall back asleep, or look inward. Heed the message and truly awaken. Otto Lowy chose to listen and won the Nobel Prize in physiology or medicine. Countless individuals throughout history have reported insights, revelations, transformations stemming from these nocturnal awakenings. The witching hour, the hour of the liver, the hour of the unconscious, different names for the same phenomenon, a moment when the veil is thin and something greater can be accessed. You're not waking up at 3 a.m. by chance. Your body isn't malfunctioning. Your mind isn't your enemy. Something within you is calling. The question is, will you answer? This knowledge I've shared today required extensive research to compile. Carl Jung, Andrew Huberman, neuroscience, ancient traditions, all interconnected to reveal a truth that can transform your relationship with sleep and with yourself. If you felt the value in this, consider supporting this work through Super Thanks. Each support is you saying, continue revealing these connections that most ignore. Continue uniting Jung and Huberman in ways that no one else does. You're not just a spectator. You're part of this mission to awaken. Now tell me in the comments. Do you wake up at 3 a.m.? What do you think your unconscious is trying to tell you? Have you ever had insights, dreams, or revelations during these awakenings? I want to hear your experience, because each story adds a piece to the puzzle of understanding this mysterious phenomenon that connects us all.